Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A CloudFoundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
We can see that there are many components already available, and how these components made available to us is by default. When we created the project, these components by default came through there. As a dummy reference, they are provided to us when we create our code base. Using taking the reference of these, we can create further our own components. Like if I go to the my project, go to my one of my page, and if I select over here, and you can see there are a lot of components, we just do one more thing. Let's create a new page. Because I selected the template, and by using the template, I created the page. I gave the name, just the name, and I asked the let's open the page. I have this page which has some default as part of the template. There were some default content. Maybe this was the header, then this was the search, and some header and footer. Now, if I open this, you can see there are many components. Whatever the company you were able to see over here, whatever the company over here, all can be now, or all can be seen over here. Basically, first is here. You can see. I told you like you can. Whenever you see this tag corporate here, you can drag the components. But this is also a component in itself, which is called as a container or responsive grid component. And this company. Within this company, we can place other company. When you click, you can the container company, which can contain other company. Here, if I click on plus, I can add any other company that I want to make. You can see that there is a segregation of components based on the side of like to do project content. And then you have many corporate villages. There's a headline to project content. And if I scroll down, let me just open it again. And if I scroll down, here you will see, here is to your project form, and then there is a single component. What happens is we basically divide our conference into different sections or by different names. When we create a parent, like if you see, if I click on any of the components, I click on this accordion. Many properties in the one of the most important is how you make this component. Simple one, that would be which is here. How do you get to know that this is a component? It's not that it's below the components folder. It's a company, but the primary type of it should be your company. The fact that we take it with you to go back, and here we set the component group. We segregate. It is basically segregation of into different groups of this. This is that this belongs to this group is covered in this room. When you open the component in this, then it will start a big below this hierarchy. If I change the name hello world to a different group, that it will start appearing in a different hierarchy. But all these components would belong to this. Like if I go over here, this is hidden. This is You can see this. This belongs to this hierarchy, to the project sector. But this is not visible to us because a UC project for the time is off. Structure, but that is not visible to us. This is because we set some restrictions at template level. These are only the component groups that should be visible, or these are all the components that should be used on the page. Basically, when we divide into different groups by the names, then it becomes easier that we can say at the template level that these are the groups which should only be allowed to be used on the actual page created using that template. Basically, we divide the we can. This is a provision that we can divide the component into different groups. Now, these things of a component. Firstly, when you start developing a component, we understand, I hope, like we already know the concept of why a component is used, but the core purpose of components in A. Components. When you start developing components, I mean three things for developing a component. Firstly is the dialogue. Then the second is the HTML, which is also called as HTML. We'll learn, of course, HTML5, but on top of it we use AEM language. One of the AEM language which is called a slightly, or you can call it as HTML or HTML. Here, why previously we were able to use JSP as well. Now even we can use JSP, but with JSP it was JSP is. With JSP you can write HTML as well as Java code within that. Within the script stack, you can write Java code as well as you can write HTML within it. It becomes very hard to understand sometimes JSPs because all the code is being written over there only. To have better coding standards, to write the code in a more modular fashion, Adobe started saying you start using HTML+. They provided their language which is slightly or HTL, which is based on HTML5 only. What they do is they provide the tags. They provide some of the tags and attributes, which helps us in doing some manipulations within HTML. Because in HTML, we cannot do any manipulation. Like, if you want to place an if condition, can you do it? We cannot do it. But through those tags, we can do it. Really, if you want to include an HTML within another HTML, or if you want to include a component within another component, all these things are not possible. If we use a simple HTML, or like if you want to iterate over a list, or if you want to call a backend Java file, all these things, of course, cannot be done through HTML. That is why Cycli was brought into XM, and you will find that there are some of the parts where they are still using the ASPs, because that is quite old way. Old way of old is. Then the third is the backend Java file, in which components we call it as sling border. I will tell you about this. Here, why developing the up, and end here, what is the purpose of dialogue? Dialogue is a pop-up or that small window that will come up. which will allow authors to input their values. Like here, we have our dialog here. If I place this component, if I edit this here, this is the dialog for this. Here, this is the dialog, and there is some extra area over here, like let me just use some other as well, like the title. If I use the title here, this is the dialog purpose. Now, here we have the dialog. Whatever authors will input inside the dialog, we will do some manipulation from HTML. We will call our backend file, which is Sling model. Sling model in case of components, and we will do some manipulations on whatever is being inputted by the author, and then we return it back to HTML and display the final results on it, that it is visible to the end user. To get input or to get what is to be shown on the end page. Further, that input is being read either inside the HTML or inside the backend job file, and we do some processing. See, if we just have to get the input and we have to display it on the page then. But let's display it directly using HTML. If there are some manipulation that has to be done, then from HTML, call your backend job file. It will do the manipulation. It will send the results back to HTML. Then HTML will display. Here, whatever I'm inputting, let's start with the component thing here. If I go to the apps hierarchy, I have inside the to-do app very different components. Let's use one of them and start getting. While developing components, one important thing is never ever do anything by yourself. I mean, let's do code from scratch. You want to, what is the preferred way is just copy an existing. Because here you see, if I open this, hello what, this is the dialog, but this is the dialog and this is HTML. Now the best way is just copy it and paste it over here, and you can rename a to do. To do one, let me use. I created this component and this is pretty simple. What I did is I just copy paste it. Let me just rename some of the properties of this, because here title for this hello, and let me give it a name else and see it may be doing something. I'm just using it. I just compensated. I will do some stuff to my internet as per my. Because here I get it. I got an HTML. I said, do not have to create these two files. I will do modifications in these two. Like here I get the HTML and he has many things is already. Let me just remove this. I don't need it. Here I can start working in my life. As the mighty, similarly I get the dialog. I get the dialog here. If you will go, let me just show you, like, this is a photo. And I named it as Tujo words. If I will refresh my phone for the app page, you should start seeing the Tujo word component over here. Here it is. And if I click over here, there was nothing in there. Let me just write something over here. That's my component. I know what is the issue. The one of the most important thing while developing the company, I told you, when you develop a component, let's say the company name is here, it's a Tujo word. Then you need to have a dialog and HTML and a backend. dialog file would always be secret dialog. Its name would be always secret dialog. Its name should always be secret dialog. When you develop HTML, you can have number of HTMLs, you can have key, you can have your own number of HTML because see, in case the component is big and you do not want everything to be placed in a single HTML, then what you do is basically you segregate your code into different HTML and then you call or then you include the code from one HTML to another just to bring the model into your group. You can have multiple HTMLs, but there should be HTML whose name should match the name of the component because that will be the first HTML that will be called from that HTML further. Any other HTMLs can be called. Since our component name is Tujo word over here, there should be at least one, or at most also, you can say at most one HTML whose name should be same as name matches component. There should be only one HTML whose name should be written because that will be the HTML that will get caught. In our case, since the one name of the operator is this and we missed to read a bit, let me just name it correctly. Let me just name it to your word. And if I will now refresh my page, you can see how it has sounded a bit. Let me delete one of them. And whatever I was printing in HTML, it is now printing. This is what I was printing. We just close this and open it. This is what I was printing. And here it is. It has started a bit. If I open the dialog for this, you can see it gave me a simple text field. How is this text field coming? If I open this dialog, you can see that's all my nodes and we do not need to worry. Just remember its name should be the dialog. Wherever below is CQ component node. Wherever the CQ component, you see a node with the name CQ dialog and it should be CQ. Its name should be CQ dialog. That is your dialog and below there it will have some error. You do not need to worry, but each and every node does like here. Just once you get that, there you get that. There will be items. You know that you will have all your nodes or basically the properties or the fields that will be displayed inside the dialog. Like here, we have this text and it is a text field and it has some label. If I go over here, if I click over here, you see then it has the field label as text. Name. I will tell you what is the purpose of name and it says the resource type is text field. Resource type is great height. OI components oral foundation form text field. It means internally at this place. Remember the resource type we discussed previously as a, what was that? Here is again thing that at this place this is a relative path, not an absolute. At this path, there will be some code written that will be responsible for rendering this node for these properties and will be responsible for showing this node on the page. Here if you want to go see, we know this is an Adobe provided code. Here you can go over here and go inside the lid because we know it's not in the ads, it's inside the app. You see there's many. These are all the ones. If I go somewhere in the Adobe documentation, you will find all these. Most of it will be there. Similarly, like here, we have a text field. If I just wanted to copy, let me just copy and let me place it, paste it. And let me rename it and let me say age. Age. Now age is a number, you know age is a number and there are not any text field that can be printed. We will say it is not a text field, it is a number field. You will find, if you will go at that path, you will find that there will be a number field over here. I have been using this. I will move. If I will go here, you can only hear. I am not able to do it, but I can try to get it. Let me change the text. Let me just rename it to name. Let me say it is. And here field level is. Let me say the name is this name. Now the important thing here, let me say this is age. That age should be displayed, and let me update the name property over here as well. This is very important. This property name is equal to dot slash. Age is very important because to this only we will fetch the value inside our HTML or inside our server. See, the property name is, this should be name, and the value is age, and this is name, and it is, let me use it as a name or a full name. Use Sling is here. Sling is doing the source resolution. I did it. Sling is a different thing. Here, name property is telling that this property name, the value of whatever the author will input, will be stored. Let me just show it to you. Let me refresh. Let me just give you a minute. I will clear you down. If I open this and enter the name as to Joji and age as Lix20, and let me just save it. Now what will happen behind the scene if I go? See, this is my content, this is my page. If I go over here with TRXD, let me go to this page. Somewhere this component would be there. If I go over here, here you have the Tojo word component. If I go below this Tojo word component, you can see it created the age field with value, and it created the whole name field with value. And how does this age came? Because we have property name. This name property's value is age. Here it says whatever the value that the author will input should be stored, and with this property name, age property name. Similarly, whatever the name will be put, it will be stored in the content hierarchy with age, property name, full name. That is why here in the content hierarchy, you will see that everything is stored. Here things are stored by age and full name by using that name property. Now in your HTML, in your content hierarchy, it is stored in this shape because you use the name property over here. How will you fetch it? If you want to fetch it, then what you will do is, let me just write a bind. Name is, and let's put here my pages. How will you fetch name is? You can fetch it and fetch your sitely as well. This is my sitely. If I can call it a sitely or HTML. Because when you use HTML, it means it has started using the sitely features. I'm calling it a sitely. To fetch, say it is all HTML. You can see I'm using BR tag. How to use sitely feature to read the value, to read the properties value. What you do is call a bracket start bracket stop properties. And what was the property name? Full name. Full name. And in the same way, it was age. If I will refresh it, you can see this is project word. My name is project and my age is 20. Let me place a BR over here. If you want to do some basic manipulation like you wanted to have an H1 type, of course you can surround it with an H1 type. Here I use the H1 type and here you use the H1 type. Again, smaller properties, whatever smaller properties. These are. We were over here in the Dojo world. We created our A numbers, name and age. These are simple. If you say that this is the name, of course you want that. Author should always input the name. Basically, it is saying that that is a code written or there is a script written which is responsible for rendering this node. And when this node will be rendered, all the properties they'll be rendered by the code that is over here. And Sling is doing this behind the scene because Sling will do the resource resolution. Somewhere this node has to be restored. Once you open this component, the secret dialog will be triggered. If the secret dialog will be triggered, then this node should be rendered. All this node will be rendered. How your code will get to know, how your browser will get to know that this node should be rendered internally. The Sling will be doing the resources resolution. Here what I did is I said required is 2. And this way, the authors will always have to input this property. If I will go over here and open it, here you will see now it becomes an asterisk and it will remove it and it will start giving me an issue. Please fill out the script. If you want to get to know more about this, the best way is either you open the documentation for this or you can directly go in the libs hierarchy. But carefully do it because if you change anything inside the libs, I told you it cannot be changed back. Libs hierarchy is all Adobe's code. And if you mistakenly change anything and if you want to revert it and you don't know where you made the changes and you think that by restarting the thing will get reverted. No, it can never be reverted back. Always open anything inside the libs hierarchy very carefully. If you go to this, the standard will have all the code. You see in the text field, it will give you the whole initial. It solves the commands and here it gives all the information. It says the whole link, content, structure. You can use the name field, you use the value, use the empty text. Empty text in case it's still out of time. Nothing has been input and virtual will be displayed. Disable Boolean if you want to keep this field as disabled required. Autocomplete. I don't know how this autocomplete will be used. And you have validation if you want to apply some external validation or the max length. If you want to use any like max length we can give. Max length is 5. Then beyond that, you can see, you can read about this also. Maximum number of characters. Validation, how you can apply the validation. What required? We just use disabled Boolean tube. It means indicating the field is in disabled state or not. Empty text, like if we use empty text, like if we say if we go to name and here we say empty text. And nothing. And if I save it, and if I will remove this, and the PJA that you need to call that it won't exist started coming up. Similarly, the max length. You can use everything like here you want it to go. You can see. Similar way, like if you go to the age, here you have the max and min which helps you in telling. The max and min are in the form of double. Here, it will help you in telling what is the maximum value and the minimum value that can be imported. And min I save it. Here, if I will save it and if I will go to this here, there will be a limit on the age which I can input here if I enter 200. It started giving me an error. Please enter a value that is no longer than 200. And if I put a minus before that, it will say it will give me an issue. Please enter a value that is no less than 1. These are out of both validation that we can apply. Min, max, min. See how I get recognized by the usage of it. Thank you. If I go to number field, if I open Nanda, you will see, you will go and you will find all those things. The name value disable type again required validation. You can see over here. Similarly, there will be. Step is another way. In how many implements you want these values to be. I always prefer not opening out of box size, otherwise you can contend to make some changes. Always, if you have out of box size open, just close them. As a general practice, if you feel you are confident that you will never change, then but best is that you close them. I said step is 5. If I will go and refresh my page and if I will open in here, then I will see it. It takes me to the next 5. It took me to the next 5 values. If I change this to 4, like I change this to 2, then it will implement it in 2 ways. After 20, it will implement in step of 2. If I will open, it will give me 20. Let me add some more fields. Let me add a tag box. We have this name number field. Let me add a text area. Here I have it. It is address and let me give it as text area. This is text area. We have text field. This is text area. Here it is. Let me give it as text. I can remove this. If I save it, let me remove the other fields. If we'll open it, see, you can see that this is over here. I think this name is, based on this. In the same way, you have some more feature. I'm going to tell you about most often used, like you have the text feed number, text area, check box drop down, and I will see if there are more. But these are the 90% of that. These are the ones that I use to create your dialogue. There are many others. You have a path field if you want it. Let me show it to you. Just always, when you're working with dialogue, always remember this whole structure. If you start creating by yourself, there's no use. Either there is any, and it will make mistakes only if I rename it, and let me say photo. You have to attach a photo. If you are developing a carousel component, what's considered a banner component, then what would you ask in that component? You would be asking the authors to input the text, what they wanted to show. In a carousel, how many slides they wanted to show. You will have a number. In a carousel, you will ask that these are the slides. This will be the text shown on each slide. And then this will be the image that should be shown. Depending on the component you design. You design the dialogue. You will ask the author what field you need. And according to that, you create your dialogues. I'm just creating a dummy dialogue for the reference work for this training purpose. Nothing has to do that. I'm showing you how the data is input in the database or based on relational. Think it's nothing with respect to that. I'm just showing you how the fields are created, how a dialogue is created, how it is being read in an HTML and further. I'm gonna show you how the fields are created. I used a path field here, path field that you can select some damn image. If I use like image name and I say photo and required to let me say it is not required and other field level is and many more things. Thank you. Thank you. Just try to find some of the existing components, how those are created. Never ever try to do it by yourself. These are pretty simple, but what you do is what we are doing is try to take some lessons from one of the existing components and copy paste it from here. Like I created one of the components, like I did one of the components over here, the component. Let me see if I have it. Here I created, I think the drop down here color. Here it is or here, let me just copy this. Firstly, it is a checkbox. What you can do is you can just copy it and just go to here and paste it. Like here. Let me just paste it and let me just take it to the top. It's nothing, but it's supporting the I need it. This is just a text. Like here, I'm seeing like you can say gender is male. Here I will say, and here I can say is male. This is field description. Like field description field. I will show you like you can here. Also you can add field description like field label. Here also you can add field description. This is string and then if you want to develop your custom, you can do that. But that is pretty hard thing. You have to see how you will develop it. You firstly have to understand how to book for that. And you can. If you want to do some customization in an existing, that is good that you can do. But never, ever change anything inside the libs. I will tell you about that. How? If you want to make some customization, you will do that. In the same way I have this color. Let me just copy this as well. What is this select? It will take me. It is a top down here. You can see there's a items over here. Let me just copy this and go to my component. And just turn it to paste it over. If we'll go to the component, this is the best way. You take the reference from existing components. Just copy the fields from there and paste it in your dialog. I have this mail over here and the background. These are the top down. And here you see the field description. And you can see, please enter name. This is the field description. Sometimes I thought that faced some issue. What is the purpose of this field? Then always preferred way that you add a field description as well. Like you have in the surround, but it is field description. Is made here. You would see it will hover over here. Now in the dialog, I told you in the HTML, I told you how will you read the properties for here. If you want to read my address, is properties, what is the name? The name is address. I will use address over here. If it is my address, then you will use it same over here as my address. Because ultimately, the content had appeared in the folder. And open the address. And here you can see it started appearing. But accidentally, if you are not using my address, but if you are using address, then it will not print because it will not find this property out. I will use my address. For colors, you see colors is nothing. It's the type you select. Here I'm accidentally using the complete path, absolute path. But it's up to you. You use absolute or relative, but the best is to use relative. Now these are the field names, again the same. And here are the items which will be shown in the drop down. Now here are these values to show the colors. How will you use my color I selected is my color. That is color. I am just going to go and refresh the page. Color is good. Let me select. You can see my color is red. Let me delete this component. We can see it. Let's do one more thing. We get this color, but let's try to surround our code with this color. What you will do is let me use it over here. Let me use the tag and see to add the style. I will use style. I'm not sure, we use style only, not style. And then let's say BG color. Is it correct or how do we write it? Code and let me just close it. And here I close the tag. And let me just put the tab over here. Here I added the default gray color. If you will go, you will see a color. Default gray color is always added. But now your requirement is that you want to change the color on the page. What you select on the top. What you can do is you can read the top over here. How you will read the same way or particular over here. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.